Her journey is nothing short of legendary, my friends. From facing a life-threatening injury, losing her leg above the knee, to defying all odds and competing in multiple Paralympics. Hold on to your seats. We're about to dive into the extraordinary life of an unstoppable force. But that's not all. Michelle's story is a testament to the power of resilience and unwavering determination. Soaring through the sky, breaking chains and defying gravity, she's like a shooting star illuminating the path for us all to follow. Brace yourself for mind-blowing tales of courage and heart. From heart-stomping jumps to jaw-dropping accomplishments, Michelle's skydiving adventures will leave you breathless. Get ready to embrace the spirit of a true champion and soar to new heights with Michelle. So welcome, Michelle, to the DropZone Podcast, where we celebrate bravery, passion, and the pursuit of dreams.
Welcome to the DropZone Podcast. I am Efrin Vargas, and today we have a special guest, Michelle. Can you please introduce yourself?
Of course. So I am a Canadian Paralympic snowboarder, backcountry snowmobiler, licensed skydiver, and I just really love anything that has to do with adrenaline and getting my heart racing.
That's awesome. So I do want to start off the podcast. I've watched a couple episodes of a different podcast before, and I got a great idea. And one thing is I ended up finding a little kind of gift momentum thing that hopefully you would like. But for skydiving.
I love it. Thank you. So it's so funny because I actually went and bought a whole bunch of these hoping to make a necklace. And I was just like, haven't got around to it. Oh, this is so sweet.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am going to wear this. I'll never take it off.
Sweet. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I love it. Thank you.
So you just.
Yeah, it's a necklace with a pin. And if obviously if you're just listening to this and not actually watching it, and you're not a skydiver, so the pin is what we use to close the bag that holds our main canopy. So yeah, a lot of people aren't going to understand this, but this is very special to those of us that do skydive.
Awesome. So let's go into that. Let's talk about the first thing about you getting your skydiving license.
Yeah.
When did you end up getting your skydiving license?
It was 2 years ago up in Canada. And, I needed something new. I just retired from snowboarding. I had my winter sport, backcountry snowmobiling. And in summers, I was dirt biking. I was wake surfing a lot. But in Alberta, we don't have many lakes. So it's quite a journey to get on the lake, and gas for a very expensive wake surf boat is expensive. So I'm like, I need something new. So I went and I did my tandem on my 10-year anniversary, and it was funny because that day was a heavy day for me. It had been a decade since I became an amputee and almost lost my life. And so when I went to go do my tandem at the end of the day after meeting up with my family, there was like nothing left in me. I didn't have much emotion. So I did my tandem. It was like only really until when we left the door that I was like, whoa, this is happening. I was like, wow, this is cool. But being someone who enjoys doing it on her own and being in control of my own destiny, I was like, I would really like to be a licensed skydiver and do this solo and,
get the journey and go through it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So during your skydiving experience or getting your license, did you have to completed like 25 jumps to become a licensed skydiver? Or
so in Canada, it's a little different. I guess it's similar. We talked about this the other day. It's similar in a lot of ways, but you get your license, your solo license, once you do your 10 jumps, and then your A license once you do your 25 jumps. Okay. You're kind of on your own between 10 and 25. And then, it's up to you when you want to go do your coach jumps and get your A license. We have a much smaller plane in Canada. We don't have these big planes that hold like 20 people. So it takes a little longer to get that A license. And interesting enough, my first year, I got 13 jumps in. That was it. 13? Yeah. I started in June, and by, October, when we stopped jumping, I'd only got 13 jumps in. I don't know. I just wasn't really, to be honest, I wasn't really loving it. I'm like, this is cool, but yeah, it might not be my thing. And then once I got my A license and I started jumping with other people, I'm like, okay, this is fun.
So you enjoyed it after, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. And so what brought you to Arizona?
So I'm actually traveling across North America. I started in Canada. I've been all the way down the West Coast, and I am documenting accessible adventure spots. So I am a medical mobility rep, which is what I do for a living. I work mainly in spinal cord pediatrics. And so I've had a lot of clients over the years that are like, I don't know what my life's going to look like, after a spinal cord injury or whatever the case is. And what's going to be accessible for me being in a wheelchair. So I just decided, I'm going to go on a journey and I'm going to document these cool places, the drop zones that are accessible, beaches, hiking trails, these adventure spots, and stay true to myself, do the things that I love as well, like jump out of planes and, bike and all of that.
So since you've been in the States, where other places have you jumped at?
So I jumped in Seattle at Cape Howe, which was really cool. And then down the coast, Oceanside, which was amazing. You're jumping just right over the ocean and, see the beach and everything as you're going up. San Diego, Paris, Davis was a really cool drop zone too. And then, out here in Eloy. And it's funny because in Canada, we talk about like Eloy, Arizona being the Mecca of skydiving, right? So to be able to come here and experience it and just learning from like you guys and everyone else at the drop zone has been amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one thing I like to talk about too is, I know you mentioned that you are disabled. You had an accident, and the accident was in 2014?
It was in 2011, so 12 years ago. Yeah.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a motorcycle accident?
Yeah, it was. So I was riding a CBR 600 and I was going up a hill. I lost control, hit the guardrail going 120. I think it's around 75 miles an hour. Did cartwheels in the air, hit the guardrail again. So upon impact, I broke almost every bone in both my legs, which were compound sticking out. I broke L4, L5 vertebrae, both my hips, shattered my pelvis, right clavicle punctured a long bruise, my spleen. And when I broke my right femur in two places, it actually severed my femoral artery.
Oh,
which,
wow.
if people don't know, that's the second largest artery in your body. It's like essentially like turning on a garden hose, right? That's how quickly the blood is, blood's coming out. So I had done a fitness competition the month before. I kept losing my vitals. I had a full out-of-body experience looking down at myself, like knowing that I was about to die. My torso was a different direction than my lower body. It wasn't looking good. You'll normally bleed out within 10 to 15 minutes when you sever that artery, but because my heart was so strong and I was young, I lived 23 minutes. And then as I was being pushed through the hospital doors, my body shut down. So in on life support and full respirators and breathing tubes and feeding tubes for 7 days in the hospital for 5 months, and then lost my right leg above the knee.
Oh, so it's a right knee. You lost your right leg
above the knee, quite far. Like I'm quite high above the knee too. So I was told I would never walk without a cane. I would never snowboard again. I would never do a lot of the things that I do now.
And look at you. You're a freaking licensed skydiver jumping out of planes.
Or awesome. Stubborn.
I think we all are a little bit. But that's still awesome though, to have the courage to even after that injury, just to go to a drop zone and, wanting to come jump out of planes. I think that's pretty awesome of you to do that.
Yeah, it's been fun. So I'm super curious. How did you get into skydiving?
So I got into skydiving because when I was a little bit younger, I've always looked at planes and I always thought to myself in my head, oh, would I ever think of jumping out of one of those? Like, I think it would be kind of cool, but would I have that to do it? Mm-hmm. And then I went into the military and it was kind of never a thing that I thought about doing in the military. But I did ask one time if they would send me to like free fall school, and I definitely got told no because it wasn't a job that I do. So afterwards, it was on my 30th birthday. I decided to I want to do something different, mm-hmm. and I went to the Grand Canyon, which they have a small little drop zone over at the Grand Canyon. Okay. And me and a buddy just decided we went there on my 30th, but then it was too windy, so they were like, "You got to come back the next day." So we had to drive all the way back to Phoenix, and then we drove, and that's like 4 hours.
Wow.
And then, so I was like, oh, do I really want to do this now? Like, is that a sign that I'm not supposed to go and jump? And then, something just told me like, you know what? Go do your tandem. Like, just, you got to get it done. You want to do it. So just go do it. So me and Buddy ended up just leaving again at 4:00 in the morning, drove all the way back out there. We waited all day because we ended up doing the late jump because it's still a little windy. But the views and being able to go towards the Grand Canyon during sunset was so awesome. Yeah.
So did you choose that drop zone because of the views, or did you not know about Eloy?
Yeah, I had no idea about Eloy. Yeah, no idea this place ever existed. Yeah. So I went out there, had a good time. Once we landed, my instructor, I told him, like, where do I go? And then that's when he was like, you need to go to Eloy. That's the place to go get your license and stuff.
So I love talking to other skydivers about this and how it's changed the perspective of flying commercial. Did you fly much beforehand?
A little bit,
right.
Yes.
Okay. So, you get on a plane, you're always like a little nervous, take off, a bit of turbulence, whatever. Now, and I traveled a lot as, a Paralympian, just having the travel bug. So, I was on a plane once a month, right? I was going somewhere. Now, when I get on a plane, all I can think about is, wouldn't it be amazing to jump out of this thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think every time I'm in it, I'm like, I don't want to be in here for 6 hours. Let me jump out of it.
Yeah. So when I came down here in March for a competition called Fresh Meat at Paris in California, I had my rig with me. I brought it with me. And so I was like, hey, well, if this thing's going down, like, how far am I from the door? Because I'm opening that door and I'm jumping out, I'm pulling the chute. And hoping that, obviously I'm not jumping with $1 million like DB Cooper, but
True,
yeah. And just so people know, jumping out of a commercial jet like that at that speed, probably not going to survive.
Yeah.
But it's a thought for sure. And okay, so now I'm curious. DB Cooper, did he make it? Do you think he made it? Do you know his story?
I don't think I do.
Whoa. Yeah, okay. No. You need to watch that tonight.
Okay.
I believe it's on Netflix. And it's this guy who, this is like maybe back in the 70s, 80s. It was a while ago. And I want to say he hijacked a plane and then asked for a bunch of like ransom money. Everybody got off the plane. Everyone was still in the plane. I don't remember. It's been a while. Long story short, he had a whole bunch of money. He had this all planned out. He asked for multiple parachutes and rigs. Like, we call them containers or rigs or whatever, right? So he asked for these like backpacks with these parachutes, multiple ones, because he didn't want potentially them to all be destroyed or something, and they didn't know which one he was going to actually take. Yeah. So he was smart. It was very calculated. And then he got the plane to fly at a certain altitude at a certain speed, and he jumped out. And to this day, nobody knows if he survived or not. They found his money buried on like a beach somewhere, like random people have, but nobody knows if DB Cooper survived.
He survived.
Yeah.
I think he survived.
I've had this conversation with many people, and a lot of people don't think he survived, but I don't know. I'm just, I'm going to be like glass half full here and just say he's out there. He's probably old and maybe not alive anymore, but I bet you he lived a long, beautiful life. Yeah.
I think so. I kind of want to talk about a little bit of your injury in skydiving. Like, what challenges do you have while you're doing this? Because it is kind of an extreme sport, and obviously a lot of people don't know what you go through on a daily of getting in the plane, getting out of the plane, how that works.
Yeah, I think for me, because at the beginning I was told that certain things weren't going to be possible. They're going to be really, really hard, just like fueled a fire in me to try everything and to see what I love and what I don't love. And I tend to gravitate to those extreme sports, like backcountry snowmobiling. You have these 500-pound machines that can easily roll on top of you. You have avalanches, all of that, right? So it's a very hard sport. So naturally I was like, okay, skydiving, you kind of need extremities and limbs to fly your body in the air, right? So I was like, yeah, this is a challenge. Sign me up. But when I got to the drop zone, I took my ground school, and they took measurements and stuff. They were going to build me a custom harness or they did build me a custom harness for my student rig. But they were like, we're really worried about you spinning completely out of control and us both losing you in the sky and you not knowing what to do. Right. So they made it mandatory for me to go to the tunnel and do a certain amount of tunnel time. And, for anybody, again, that doesn't know, what is the tunnel? Yeah. So it's an indoor skydive center. It's just, directional wind that essentially is giving you that feeling of skydiving. So a minute is equivalent to a free fall, tandem, or a skydive, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I went and I did my, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it was, and was definitely still spinning. And when I did my first unlinked jump, I think it was like level 4 or 5, where I jumped out of the plane, still as a student, jumped out of a plane by myself. I was like completely out of control, like, barrel rolling and like tomahawking and all this stuff. And I still was spinning, but I started to kind of use my hands. And then as I spent more time in the tunnel in between that, because it was 10 minutes from my house, whereas the drop zone was an hour, it made a lot more sense for me to be in the tunnel, right?
Yeah.
So I drive to the tunnel and I get in there and, they'd let go of me and I'd be flying on my own. And then that's when I learned that for me, it's easier to fly with my hands. So if I have one hand kind of flush and the other hand up like a, talk to the hand, I don't spin. But the second I put both hands down, I start spinning. And then over time, I have over 5 hours in the tunnel now. I can just don't even think about it anymore. I just fly my body and, I've learned to sit fly and do other things.
So when you're flying, since it's above the knee, you don't fly with your prosthetic leg.
No, and I did 10 minutes in the tunnel with my prosthetic. And because I'm above the knee, essentially what prosthetics are, knees are these days, is they're just a door hinge, right? Mine is a little fancier. It costs $80,000 Canadian. It's a microprocessor, but it works the same way. I put weight into it, I walk heel to toe, and it swings with me. That computer in the knee is allowing me to use less energy. But when there's no weight on it, it's just, it's collapsing like a hinge. It's like opening a door, right? And then closing a door when I sit down. So in the tunnel, all it did was just like flutter around. I had no control of it. And then I'd find it would just throw me into this super aggressive spin out of nowhere. And again, it was hard for me to get out of that. So it hurt. It's heavy. I'm not agile. It doesn't, if I were to do, let's say, a barrel roll, well, the leg's going to be delayed, right?
That makes sense.
Plus, it costs so much money. The last thing I want to do is lose that.
Something like that.
Yeah, in the sky.
So did you did you have to change anything to take the leg off, like when you're in the plane, or was it pretty from the tunnel to skydiving?
So I just have never jumped with my leg.
Oh, you never have?
No,
oh, okay.
I chose right from the beginning just for it to be easier. I think actually my tandem master was like, well, I would prefer if you didn't wear it because I don't know if this thing's going to be constantly hitting me. So if, that's how I started skydiving without it. And sure, I'd probably at some point maybe want to look into, like we had talked about, wingsuiting briefly. And, I want a wingsuit and I'm probably going to need some kind of leg or something for that. So there's this gentleman who used to skydive. He was an above the knee amputee. And he had this telescopic leg where it was somehow like, I don't know if it was attached to him or it was like buckled to his side or whatever the case was. And when he got down, he would almost like, what are those like batons that the police use, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so they like whip it out and it becomes really long. He would do this as a prosthetic leg. He would just like whip it out and it would expand and he would attach it to his socket and just walk off the field.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah. So that's goals. Because
awesome. Yeah.
I would love my independence. I think the toughest thing for me is not having the independence to, getting in the plane I figured out, but I have to get someone to grab my leg at the plane and then bring my leg to me in the field and generally drive me back because skydive legs are heavy and canopies, all that stuff. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you had any kind of when you're skydiving and you pull your parachute? Have you had any kind of malfunctions? Any line twist?
Yeah, I know it's because of my disability and the weight
Distribution kind of balancing?
yes, it's off for sure. I tend to always go to the left when I open, and it can usually be quite aggressive. I had a pretty significant line twist a while ago that everyone's like, it would have been smart for you to cut. But I kicked out of it. And I honestly think because I only have the one leg, kicking out of it is easier, right? Because I don't have to worry about kicking both legs. I just use my arms and just kick out of it. Yeah, it wasn't good. I was like puking on the way down and stuff because it was a really bad line twist. But yeah, it's not as common though. You know, I'm slow when I pack because, you know, for that reason.
Yeah.
But the reason they did the H harness, so really all it is just like a materials that in the shape of an H, and they are attached to my leg straps, so my leg straps are closer together. And the reason they did this and even encouraged me to get my own rig at the beginning instead of using student gear is because they were worried that the leg straps weren't going to be tight enough. And because I am high above the knee and I was jumping without my socket, which is this carbon fiber thing that I'm wearing right now, that there's nothing to stop the leg strap from coming off. And then what? And then I'm just spinning out of control. And the same thing when I open my canopy, I'm going to be spinning out of control, even with my reserve too. So that was always a big concern for my drop zone was my safety, which, you know, I love them for, but having to do these custom things because of that. And luckily that's never happened, but it is a concern.
So is there anything different with your rig now that when you put on, like, is it made just for you or is it just, it works?
No, it's not different than anyone else's except for that H harness, which I can take off and put on any rig, which is great.
That is awesome, yeah.
So, you know, when I went down to DeLand last year, I just took that with me and just rented a rig. It was easier than bringing it.
And everything, yeah.
But it would be nice to have something built in. So I am going to get eventually a custom rig made. Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah. When you skydive, you're not belly flying either. You're able to actually stand, sit fly, and actually do some free flying stuff, right?
Yeah, well, you know, I didn't come into this sport just to do it. I came into this sport, and that's like with everything I do. And again, becoming an amputee and all these challenges, it's like, I don't want to just go to participate. I want to go to be good. And so I've put a lot of dedication and time and resources and money into, right? The joys of sky, you know, into like being a decent skydiver. And I'm still hard on myself thinking like, you know, I just did 100 jumps with you yesterday. That was my 100th jump. And I'm like, oh, I should be like, you know, I should be better and I should be at this level. And it's tough because everyone's progression is different. And I have to constantly remind myself, like I spent over an hour in the tunnel just learning how to not spin and to fly my body, right? So I understand that there's challenges, but you know, I'm really hoping that I can just like break some barriers down the road. And I don't think that there is another above the knee amputee, especially female wingsuiter out there. So that's, you know, my goal is to be that first. And, you know, I love it. Like I love those first. And to me, that's always been a challenge. Like I became Canada's first female Paralympic snowboarder, in 2014 when I competed in the Sochi Games. And so, yeah, it's like, sign me up.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you went to the Olympic Games.
Yeah, I've competed in 2 Paralympic Games. So the 2014 Sochi Paralympics and the 2018 Pyeongchang Paralympics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How was that? Like,
it was an experience for sure. The 2014 games, like, you know, Russia, there was just so much controversy around those games, and the Paralympics run 2 weeks after the Olympics. So by the time we get there, like all the Olympians have cleared out, and you know, our athletes and the size of the Paralympics is like maybe a quarter of the Olympics. So it can, you have a lot of like buildings that are still like half empty and stuff. So it's cool. Yeah, it was, Russia was amazing. It was funny because I just met, when we were out for lunch day, I met a guy who was from Sochi. The guy sitting at the bar. Yeah, the guy that's in between us right now. Yeah. Like his trailer's in between us. He's like, yeah, like, what'd you think? He's like, yeah, I can't even drink the vodka. Because when they give you a shot of vodka, it's like a full cup of vodka. And you're like,
8 ounces.
Yeah. Like, and they this is like breakfast, this is their orange juice. So it just, it was, in that sense, I drank a lot of vodka. Obviously after competing.
And this was for snowboarding. Correct?
This was for snowboarding. So it was really cool because in 2011, I lost my leg. I had been a snowboarder for 13 years. I had never rode border cross. I did a few competitions for like slope style and, jibbing and stuff. I was a park rat. I love to hit big jumps and rails and boxes and all that, like features. So when I found out about my leg, it was day 7 or the day I came off life support, I found out about my leg. And right away I was like, I'm going to the Paralympics. I'm going to be a snowboarder. But the crazy thing is snowboarding wasn't in the Paralympics yet. And this is in 2011.
Oh, it wasn't even.
It wasn't. And then all of a sudden in 2012, they added it as a late addition to the 2014 games. So I was like, wow. And a lot of people were like, Michelle, like you broke your body. All my doctors are like, you have to wait 2 years to even get back on your snowboard. Like, it's just not a reality. Let's be honest. Like, you need to heal. You have all this hardware in you. Like, let's just focus on your recovery. And I was like, nope. So 8 months later, 3 months after I got home from the hospital, still walking with a walker, I got back on my snowboard. And I duct taped myself. I duct taped my whole body with memory foam. And I was wearing these extra large clothes because nothing would fit around the memory foam. I didn't want to break all the hardware in me or break my body again, right? Because it takes a while for your bones to actually, especially your pelvis. So yeah, I was wearing like these really baggy clothes, and I had this socket that was suction fit. So when you sweat or whatever the case is, like it's been my complaint, obviously, with you guys, like my leg keeps wanting to fall off. But when you're suction, it's way easier for it to fall off. So I got to the top. It was my second time out. I was with my sister at like the hill we grew up riding. And I'm at the top of this bunny hill. And my liner or my socket comes right off. And it comes right through these huge pants that I'm wearing, the leg of the pants. And so my leg is still attached to the snowboard and it is traveling down the hill by itself. Like, have you ever seen a snowboard with a leg attached to it? I traumatized so many people that day. Like, it was,
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was something. But, getting there, my bedside dream was to become a Paralympian. And I let that doubt from these people become my motivator. So I pushed myself. I got there. I wasn't good by any means. I was not a good snowboarder, but I did it. I became a Paralympian. And then my next goal going into 2018 was to medal. And, I had 14 World Cup medals in that quad. And I was ranked 3rd overall in the world when I went in. And, it wasn't my day. I finished 4th in border cross and 5th in bank slalom. But, I had a good career.
You did snowboarding, but what?
My discipline?
Your discipline, yeah.
So our events were border cross, and we were racing 2 at a time. When we got to Pyeongchang, in Sochi, we were doing individual. So whoever did the fastest run. And then by the time we got to 2018, we were racing 2 at a time. Now they're racing 4 at a time, like true border cross. Yeah, which is crazy because if you look at my sports, I showed you yesterday, it's like this big hunk of aluminum. It's got Fox mountain bike shocks in it. Like, I don't know if anybody really wants that in their back, right? Yeah. But it's fun. It's adrenaline. Like, if anybody doesn't know what border cross is, it's it's big, long course. Usually takes like a minute to a minute and a half, sometimes 2 minutes, depending on the course, to get through it. And it's like usually a pretty technical start section, a lot of movement, and then you're going over jumps and over rollers and berms, and so it's like technical and also really fast, and you're passing people, trying not to hit other people. Like, we're known for blowing up on the course, kind of like skydiving is in some ways, right? And then, bank slalom is just like big berms, and you're riding the berms as fast as you can and for the best time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was that the only thing you competed in for the Olympics, was the snowboarding?
So I actually made it on the national paracycling team for the development team for Canada. I went to Germany for a World Cup. Cycling, I loved the velodrome, which is a track. So it's either indoor, sometimes outdoor, and it's this really cool steep track on a slope, and you have to ride it fast enough or your bike's sliding out. And it is such a good time. It's over quickly too, which I'm all for. Road biking wasn't my thing. I don't enjoy being on a road bike for 4 hours. Cycling with one leg, because my discipline, nobody wore their legs. So I did an 18-kilometer time trial in Germany with one leg, and it was like 40 degrees Celsius, which is what we're experiencing right now, like over 110 degrees Fahrenheit with one leg. And it was all uphill.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't finish.
No?
It was not good. No.
That would be...
Yeah.
That'd be rough.
But, I've tried my hand at other sports too. Like I tried rowing, I've tried wheelchair basketball, sit volleyball, really everything. And, it wasn't like extreme. It didn't get my adrenaline going, right?
Okay.
So it's why I've transitioned to, backcountry snowmobiling and skydiving, because it just makes sense.
Yeah. So you do the backcountry snowmobiling?
Yes.
And that's just basically kind of going into the mountains and
and you're climbing stuff. You're climbing, and you're climbing isn't all of it. There's going and doing like tricks out there too, I guess you'd call them, like maneuvers that can be sometimes dangerous. And then just riding the powder, like, maneuvering this 500-pound machine on one ski, like side to side. And, it's kind of like riding a snowboard in the powder, but you're going so much more faster. You have control of your speed. And it's just, if anybody hasn't tried backcountry snowmobiling, especially in Canada and the Rocky Mountains.
The mountains, the snow is so amazing over there.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So you're invited anytime.
Anytime? All right, I'm going to have to take you up on that.
You and the crew.
Okay, yeah, we'll bring the crew out there.
Yeah.
Oh, yo, dream chasers and go-getters. The DropZone Podcast is proudly sponsored by Grind Time Coffee. Tune in to our podcast where we serve up inspiration and captivating stories of success, all while enjoying the rich flavors of Grind Time Coffee. Join us as we interview trailblazers, visionaries, and everyday heroes who've turned their dreams into reality, all fueled by the power of Grind Time Coffee. Are you ready to elevate your grind and brew greatness in your life? Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and let the magic of Grind Time Coffee fuel your ambitions. Grind Time Coffee is located at 1430 West Warner Road in Gilbert, Arizona. The DropZone Podcast, where dreams and Grind Time Coffee come together to create something extraordinary.
So today was Michelle's, we'll say 100 jump.
Well, 100.2, like part B? I don't know.
We'll call it part B.
Yeah.
That's fine. So what we decided to do is it was going to be a 7-way, right? And we do this thing called a sit train, and that basically helps you get into a stable position to be able to sit fly. But it's actually kind of cool because it's fun because it's actually like a bobsled.
Yeah,
So
it is.
What you're gonna see is about 7 of us, and I think it was actually 5 people attempting to basically bobsled down 13,000 feet.
Oh, this was fun. Yeah, so
He left way late.
the timing was a little off. And then if you look, so we missed it, but we ended up being like a human cannonball for a second there.
I think it's like right.
Yeah.
There.
Oh, there. Okay, so just so you guys know, anybody watching this is not how you skydive.
That's like one big knot.
So like Taylor, I'm in the front, the purple helmet. Taylor's behind me. Oh my goodness. And then you have
Chase.
And
And
he's
then Caleb, I
so it's
believe.
Caleb's fault. He was in the back.
The driver.
Yeah.
That is not how I said.
Yeah. So I'm essentially getting pulled. You look at Chase, he's holding on for dear life.
Yeah, he's like, don't let go.
And then what happened is we almost just like bent in the middle.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That was special.
And then so the plan for this after this blew up was to build a round and everybody come to Bali, build a round. So then Michelle could basically cannonball in between the middle of us.
Yeah. I was gonna fly down in the middle. Yeah. And at one point we kind of all got close to docking, and then all of a sudden everyone went back to doing their own thing.
Yeah.
It was so confusing. Like there's people going into sit fly. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what we tried to do, and it definitely did not work.
You know, it's all about learning.
It is.
You learn something on every jump, and sometimes you learn what not to do.
I think I've learned more of the time of what not to do than what to do.
Hey, those are important too, though.
But like every round, it's always fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. Every jump is fun. It's always a good time. There's days where I have, everybody has bad days or days that they're just not feeling it. But when I get that one morning coffee jump in, it like definitely settles me down. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it does the same for you.
Yep, that was a fun jump, and I'm glad that I got to spend 100 here with you guys, because
And the one thing that we definitely got to do though is if you're anywhere else, we definitely got to get you some better footage, and an actual good exit. So
Ouch.
yeah, no, the footage is amazing, but the problem is you have
You guys.
you have one cameraman and you have 6 other people, right? So like who do you? It's tough when we're jumping with that many people. So
oh yeah, it is definitely hard because you got to think about people are all flying at different speeds.
Yeah.
People might not know how to do certain things, and trying to get everybody falling together at the same time is pretty challenging.
and it would have been super easy for our camera guy Juan if he if it went to plan, right?
Yeah,
right,
if it went
and
to plan.
he's not like just like
It's fine, guys. It's fine.
hurting cats.
Well, I didn't mean it towards you. I just say we need to get a good. I feel like all of our
Just say
jumps
it
have been
already.
very
Come on.
blown up.
I will say, guys, stay tuned, because we had a jump plan today. We weren't able to get on a second load or another load together because it got windy and hot. But we got a really cool idea, something to do with like a limb as a hot potato.
Maybe we could do that in Canada
Ooh,
at your drop zone.
yeah, when the Sky
That's right.
Van comes out.
Yeah,
I
take a
like
trip
it.
out there.
Okay. Now you're talking, or we can all meet in Florida in September.
Oh, that would
Just
be
saying.
even fun too.
Just saying.
Florida. Yeah, so I guess one thing we forgot to talk to the people to let people know is how we met. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, you guys were in Paris. Okay, so here's the thing. Waldo had walked up, and I think he was turned back, and he was talking to, here, I'll just adjust that, but he was talking to one of you guys about like the high altitude briefing, right? And so for those who don't know, high altitude jump is,
16,000?
yeah, I think we went to around 16,000. But after 12.5 or 13.5, maybe legally you have to wear oxygen. So yeah, we are all like figuring out how to breathe in this oxygen with these tubes in our nose. It was weird. Anyway, so Waldo had said something about the high altitude jump, and I was on the load, but I was solo. So I didn't have anybody to jump with, and I was like, oh, that's no fun. Like, you don't want to do a high altitude jump solo, right? So I was like, hey, do you guys have room for one more? I had no idea that you guys had all traveled out together as a crew. I thought you were just random people jumping together that had like, you made friends, like a couple people here and there. You guys all got together. So I just invited myself into your group, and we had a really fun jump. It was awesome.
No, that jump was awesome. So for us, I think all of the guys here that I jump with, some of the friends that I made here at Skydive Arizona, over the last 2 years since I jumped, we all decided to take a trip out to Skydive Paris because they were doing a helicopter jump. And we all were like, you know what? We got to do that. We got to go and get on this helicopter jump. And I think when we met, I think it was like it was awesome because you joined our crew. We learned how to put on the oxygen stuff together, and the jump was pretty fun. So I'm gonna I have it up on the screen.
I didn't ask you this. Did you jump from the helicopter as well?
I did not do a heli jump. I am not a fan of that zero gravity, that like roller coaster feeling. I hate that feeling. I go like.
So you don't like G's?
I don't. I don't. And I just don't think I would be like hands, rolling down the windows in the air, and probably not.
Doesn't like this, which is glad she was planning on playing.
Yeah, not my thing. So I'll eventually get there and maybe do like a hot air balloon, but I don't have interest in right now.
No.
And just so people know, when you skydive, you don't really feel it, even though our jump yesterday, when you pulled us out on our sit train, I felt that. But for the most part, when you jump out, you don't get that. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, you can go to the carnival and you can do that drop ride.
Oh, the ride, yeah.
Right, but it's that feeling the whole time. You're like, this is horrible. You do not get that with skydiving.
No.
Well, you do for the first couple seconds, but...
Yeah, I think it's because of the relative wind of the plane and stuff.
Yeah, your terminal velocity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play this video of us basically getting ready for our altitude jump. And this was what? It was a 7-way, I think it was?
It was a 7-way.
Yeah, 7. So that's basically seven of us licensed skydivers up at 16,500 feet. And we're all basically going to jump out together. And I think we were planning on coming up to a round, and a campfire, right?
Yeah. It's hard when you have that many people and different like skill levels, and people have mastered.
As you can see,
it
didn't work.
I'll be the first to admit my timing was off. So I didn't exit at the same time. And it was like a bowl was coming at me. Like I had these 3 dudes that just like barreled into me and pushed me out of the plane, which that's what skydiving is all about, right?
Get out the door now.
Exactly. Like it happens. You got to be ready for anything. And the nice thing is you're literally just falling into air, so it doesn't hurt. Yeah. So the idea was that we would all come together, and we have tons of time because of our high altitude. And then I kind of ran into Waldo's foot here.
Yeah, I think he kicked you.
Yeah. But I was coming back. I was determined.
And you got there. Look at right here.
I did.
Look at how much she's working. Look at that.
Right at break off time.
Woo!
Yeah. So we had how long do you think we had? Probably 70 seconds of free fall time.
Yeah, I think it was like 75 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens? We just saw the video, and it seems like everybody just decided to leave the group, right? That's breaking away, right?
Yeah, break off, yeah.
Why would somebody do that?
At the very beginning, we always talk about like what we're going to break off at. So everybody has the same understanding. We all do it at the same time so that we can safely get away from each other and pull our canopies, our parachutes, and it, not have entanglement with the other canopy or whatever the case is. So yeah, break-off's pretty important. We're all paying attention to where each other. We've talked a lot about this over the last couple of days, is making sure we know where other people are, and that can be hard with 7 people. We're all supposed to turn 180 degrees or 90 degrees, depending on the on the jump. 180. But the idea is to turn around and track away.
Basically, you want to get away from everybody, so you don't have, you have time to open up your parachute and deal with, hopefully you don't have any malfunctions, but if you do, you can safely do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also when we're falling for, on the valley, we're probably going like 120 miles plus. A lot of people you're not floating, you're going pretty fast. So imagine running into somebody, it's going to hurt, and it could be not fun.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you ever looked down? Because when we're taught as students, we were always taught to look at the horizon, don't look down, because you can target fixate and get so wrapped up in the fact that, oh my gosh, like I'm falling towards the ground, and then completely forget to pull your parachute or, just freak out. So again, we're always taught, like, look at the horizon, look at the horizon. But do you remember the moment you like looked down for the first time and it registered like, whoa, I am falling so fast to the ground?
Yeah, I did. I was like, what am I doing up here? This is crazy. Am I doing this right now? I remember that moment too, because I was like, I look, because like when I started skydiving, my instructor, like, I was so unstable. Like, I couldn't get stable, and I was so fixated, like, don't look down, look at your instructor. So when I had that moment of, like, actually taking it all in, it's like, and I look down, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And then you start feeling it, like, okay, I am not going slow. I am going fast. Yeah.
And it isn't that crazy that we feel like we're falling so slow when we're looking at the horizon, because you have no context, right?
Yes.
And then the first, like, I remember thinking, wow, skydiving is like very freeing and it's so calm and peaceful. And when you start doing your first, like, your solo jumps, you're like, it's kind of boring, right? Because I'm just like falling. And then you look down, you're like, whoa, like I am falling. Like, I think we fall, what is it? 1,000 feet per 7 seconds, roughly, depending on weight. It's like, that's super fast. That's kind of crazy.
It was kind of funny for me when I jumped in. I don't know what happens to you guys, but I think at the beginning we're still focused on the procedures and how to stay alive.
Yeah.
That for me was like a jump 30 something when I realized it hit me hard when I was falling from the sky. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell, I'm actually falling, like,
Yeah, and I think it took until about jump 52 for me to not black out for a couple seconds when I was exiting the plane.
You would black out.
Yeah, I would, because I was so nervous. My nerves were just, it was, exiting the plane was always so scary, because I was like, what if something goes wrong? And then I started realizing, like, what's going to go wrong? Even if I like misstep and fall, while trying to do my exit, I have lots of time to figure it out. And so when I started eventually loving the door was when I really was like, this is my sport. Like, this is what it's all about. And having these super fun exits that go perfect, like, are executed amazing. And, there's just the jump and you get down, and you can be having the worst day, have the best skydive, and you get down and you are just glowing.
On top of the world.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you ever jumped with anybody that has a disability? You never have.
No. Let me think about that. No, I haven't.
That would be pretty awesome to get like camera footage of
Yeah.
just like maybe like 6 people building around together that all have different kind of,
Yeah. So there used to be a belly team. I forget what they were called, but they were all amputees.
Really?
Yeah. The something 5, but it was a thing. So in San Diego the other day, Woody is one of the, I want to say he's like the operations manager of San Diego. He is a single below the knee amputee. He brought out Keontae, who is a single below the knee amputee. So they did a tandem, because Keontae is not a license. Yeah. So they did a tandem, and then I jumped with them. But the problem is I was sent I wasn't sent. I jumped out too early, and then I couldn't get with them. But the idea was that all 3 of us were gonna,
That would be. We got to do that. We got to get a bunch of people together and have you guys do that. I think that would be, get some good like actual photographers that can basically get the footage of it. That would be pretty sweet.
And there's probably a lot of low key skydivers that do have a disability and just for whatever reason don't want to be treated differently or whatever the case is. And they go out there and they shred. Like, we heard about one today who's paralyzed and he's amazing.
Yeah, he's like base jumping, isn't he?
Yeah,
that's awesome. It's so awesome.
So like, part of this trip is meeting up with people like that and getting these really cool adventures, or doing these really cool adventures together. I just haven't had the chance quite yet, but that would be fun. Even having like an event where all of us, like a boogie.
Yo, boogie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we can even maybe name it something that would be fun towards, you know,
Ooh,
that would be
I
pretty
like
cool.
it. Count all the limbs that we have together. Yeah.
So I know we talked about it before, but that is why you came to the US, right? You came to basically come and do stuff with amputees or people with disabilities?
Yeah, I came to the States to celebrate and document accessible adventure spots, but part of that is meeting up with people that are doing amazing things living with a disability. So adaptive athletes are, you know, whatever you would call it, like nowadays, you know, I don't mind the word disability and using that. So I've met up with a few people now and done some really cool things. And this is actually the point in my trip where I start really like, you know, like meeting up, like we already have dates set, right?
Yeah.
And meeting up with people and going on those adventures and having people teach me how to do new things with their disability, you know, and
learning from each other,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah. It's going to be so cool.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
That is awesome. And I mean, I know to me, it might be a disability, but you're truly inspiring. Like it is so awesome. I mean, I can only imagine the things that you have been through with that, and to be out here jumping out of planes, just having a good time. I think it's so cool.
Yeah. You know, it's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome of you. And so I would like to say thank you. You know, thank you for coming out here. Thank you for doing this podcast. And I hope, you know, your travels go well.
Thank you. And thanks to, you know, obviously the rest of the crew too.
Yeah.
Like you guys are awesome. And if anybody comes out to Eloy, they should definitely hit you guys up because you guys are so fun to be around and to jump with, and definitely made not just California, Paris, but for everyone that doesn't know, like we met in California, but then my travels actually ended up taking me to Arizona, to Eloy, right?
Yeah,
so here we are
right.
again. So thank you. It was an awesome weekend.
Same. It was awesome. Just if you would like, do you want to give people, you know, maybe your social media, your, you know, Instagram or something like that, and they could go and check you out, follow you, give you some likes and.
Sure. Yeah. Everything's under Michelle Salt. My Instagram is Para Shredder, but I think if you throw in Michelle Salt, like salt and pepper, you can find me. Same with Facebook, my athlete page, and then YouTube.
Right on. Well, everybody have a good one. Michelle, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Have safe travels.
Yeah.